Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. This week I have a different style of video for you. It's not fitness or workout or food related. Instead, it's more of a mental health type of video. A year ago, I got out of a narcissistic relationship and I blogged about it. I wrote a series of blog posts, which I'll actually link down in the description box for you to read. I got out of this relationship and blogged about it and had so many responses from women all over the world saying, thank you, this is the type of relationship I've been dealing with, I can finally heal, thanks for the tips, wow, this sounds like me, I can finally put a name to this madness. And I wondered, why didn't I not create a video? I've never actually spoke about it on my YouTube channel. And even though I've had a few requests to do so, I just felt like the blogs kind of spoke for themselves. And, I haven't really added to the blogs because I closed that chapter, I've moved on and I healed. But I felt the need to create this video because you guys wanted to see a talk about it. So here I am. Who or what is a narcissist? A narcissist is generally someone who lacks empathy. They're very superficial, they're very entitled, they're only worried about themselves. They also don't regulate their emotions very well. They tend to fly off the handle and get very upset, throwing temper tantrums. They're very controlling, they're very jealous, and they're very sneaky. However, NPD or narcissistic personality disorder is a lot more than just that. It's an actual diagnosis. What is a narcissistic relationship? This varies obviously couple to couple, but the narcissistic relationship that I was in, it wasn't until 3 months in that I started seeing red flags. And one of my friends, her name's Kim, hi Kim if you're watching, she reached out and she said, wow, this sounds like a lot like my relationship. And she would kind of share me things that she had gone through, and it's like a light bulb went off in my head. I had no idea what I was dealing with until one of my best friends told me her story and what it looked like outside the box. It started off very nice. He was charming, as I wrote in the blog post, he was great. He got me beautiful flowers. The first date was perfect. And then little by little, things kind of shifted. And thus the pattern of narcissistic abuse began. So let's talk about the pattern. There are typically 4 stages in a narcissistic cycle of abuse. The first stage is love bombing. Love bombing is basically when you meet. They do everything, they pull out all the tricks to get you hooked. They seem charming, they get you big flowers, they take you out to dinner, they compliment you, they text and blow up your phone 24/7, they call you all the time, they just can't get enough of you. You are perfect to them and you feel perfect and you feel wanted. My love bombing phase in my old relationship it ended around 2 to 3 months. That's when the next phase, which is the devalue phase, came into play. Stage 2, the devalue phase, is when the narcissist starts to show their true colors little by little. They might start exerting a little bit of control. For example, just to put it vaguely, I had asked someone else for help one time, and I told my narcissist, and he flew off the handle about it because I could have asked him for help. So little things like that, they might start critiquing you or picking you apart a little more, saying that they don't like little certain things that you do, even though in the beginning of the relationship, they loved it. Basically, this phase is when the narcissist starts to depreciate their partner. The goal of this phase is to make you feel like you're not good enough and that you should try harder. During the devalue phase, the narcissist will deploy a few methods to kind of, abuse you and degrade you and depreciate you. The first one that I see a lot of, and that happened to me, was gaslighting. So when you're fighting, they might go, well, I never said that, or I never did that. Basically, gaslighting gets you to deny your reality. And honestly, at times I felt crazy. Some other examples of gaslighting is, you're crazy. That never happened, which I think I already said. You're too sensitive. You have a terrible memory. I'm sorry that you think that I hurt you. You should have known how I would react. Other people hate you. And just things like that. They get you thinking the worst. And most of it isn't true. Gaslighting, as I have mentioned, is probably the narcissist's #1 technique or tool for manipulation. But they have other methods. Another method is called future faking. They are very grandiose. They don't really think logically a lot of the time. They talk about marriage right off the bat. They talk about these grand things, getting a home. I remember in the first, 2 months, maybe in the first month, I was dating my narcissist. We were looking at homes to buy because he wanted to buy a house with me. I should have known this was nuts, but that's an example of future faking. So Another thing that narcissists will do to manipulate you is called projection. So say you want to talk to them about something and say that, hey, you know, what you said hurt my feelings. Well, their response might be, well, what you said hurt my feelings. They say, hey, I think you're being kind of mean. They'll say, well, I think you're being kind of mean. So basically they take what you tell them and they throw it back on you. So nothing ever gets resolved. You go around in a circle, which is also called circle talk, and then you're left feeling worse than you did before when you try to talk to them about something. Communication doesn't really exist in a narcissistic relationship. Another thing about them is that they're always jealous. They're never truly happy for you. They're either jealous of you or they're also jealous of others. They feel like they are the ones that needs to get that promotion. They are the ones that need to get that flattery or that, you know, whatever. They are entitled. They are also very controlling. Mine would tell me who I could and couldn't be friends with. He would get jealous whenever I went and hung out with a girlfriend and her husband and son. He told me who I needed to block on Facebook, and he would count up my likes on my photos and ask me, you know, if there was one missing or if there was a discrepancy because someone had it blocked. He would ask me who they were. He would go through all the hearts on my photos and ask me who the guys were and to unfriend them, and he'd sometimes even message them himself. This is not normal behavior, by the way. Another thing that I dealt with was narcissistic rage. They don't really have a way to regulate their feelings. They throw tantrums, they yell a lot, and they just lose their shit, pretty much. I once got into an argument with my narcissist, and he threw my phone out my window and cracked it. So, yeah. I've also been told by his ex that he punched holes in the walls or in the doors, which I saw one time. So, you know, they don't know how to control themselves when it comes to their emotions. This phase can last months, years, who knows? It all depends on the narcissist that you're with and your relationship. The reason why the devalue stage happens is because the narcissist is empty. They suffer from this thing called lack of object constancy. Object constancy is the ability to feel connected to someone, your spouse, your partner, your girlfriend, boyfriend, even when they're not physically present. Narcissists don't have this. Also, in a healthy relationship, when we fight with our loved ones, we should have the ability to not inflict too much damage. Why? Because there's no reason to. This is also object constancy. Narcissists don't have this. To most of us in a healthy relationship, we can argue, we can get over it. However, to someone with narcissistic personality disorder, the negative feelings are all that they can focus on. And honestly, there is no gray area. Whenever you piss them off or make them feel some type of way, you're gonna be bad in their eyes. You are no longer good in their eyes. You see, they only see you as good and bad. There's no in between. In a narcissist's mind, they cannot cope with the fact that their partner isn't what they dreamed them up to be. Once you show your faults and that you're human, that's it. They do not like it. And on to the next person. Leading in to the discard phase, which is breaking up, getting dumped. So during the discard phase, the narcissist pretty much finds someone to take your place before finally breaking up with you, and then they break up with you. Why? Simply, you aren't feeding their ego. You're not fulfilling their needs anymore, and that's all you were ever good for to them. One of the things that I tell people who ask me about my experience and how to heal and get over this is that the narcissist never loved you. I know it hurts and it sounds terrible for me to say that, but they don't. They didn't love you. They loved what they could do for you. So when you're no good, on to the next. A narcissist only wants relationships to fuel their ego and their need for importance. The thing about it is that the narcissist is in constant search for validation. They want to feel loved, adored. They want you to think they are the shit. And once you don't provide that, bye-bye, you're out. A lot of people think of the discard as, wow, I wasn't good enough, or how can they break up with me? I did everything I could. And yes, you probably did. And guess what? You are good enough. But this relationship is dysfunctional. It doesn't work like a normal relationship. And honestly, that discard was your ticket out, sister. This was a blessing in disguise. All right, so what happens next? Well, when the narcissist finds a new supply, which I'll get into that in a minute, they will either keep going with that new supply. You might not ever hear from them again if they're truly happy and they're getting their ego fulfilled. Or if that new supply fails to, well, do everything that you failed to, guess what? they'll kick them to the curb too. And they might come right back to you, which is why most narcissists go back to their exes. All right, so let's chat about supplies and what are they. I actually wrote a whole blog post on supplies and how to deal with it. Link in bio, or link in description box, sorry. So basically a supply, and we call them supplies because that's all we are to narcissists. We are sources of supply, supply for their ego, supply for their whatever they're looking for, validation, to be need, seen, heard, whatever. We are just objects. And supply is basically the narcissist's lifeline. They cannot thrive without it. They need it. And that's why usually you're not the only person that they're talking to in a relationship. Narcissists are not loyal. They cheat. I've been cheated on quite a few times by my narcissist. They just can't. They can't do it. One source of supply, you are not enough. So whenever they're dating you, most likely they are, especially if you are in the devalue stage, they are already talking to other women or men. They're already lining up their next victim or supply, whatever you want to call them, same thing. So yes, they do cheat on you. And during my discard, the final one, there were like 10 or so discards in a year. During my final discard, he already was with someone the whole time. And 4 days later, they were official. So, I mean, that's typical. It's to be expected. This is what narcissists do. They cannot be alone because being alone is uncomfortable for them. When they're alone, they don't feel that validation that they so desperately need. But the thing is, in their mind, once they're yours, they're always yours. I know it's crazy, but narcissists actually keep a little harem or a garage per se. This is why they go back to their exes, because they know if new supply A doesn't work, they can go back to old supply B. They usually have a few people in this garage that they can kind of cycle and alternate through to see who's still hot for them. Does that make sense? And this is actually another reason why the narcissist wants to remain your friend, even after all the shit that they put you through and the breakup. Rule number 1, don't be friends with your narcissist ex. Please don't. They only want to keep you on the line for when they can use you next, such as if their current relationship doesn't work out. I know that during my year-long narcissist relationship, he reached out to his ex a few times. So I thought that was kind of weird, and now when I learned about the narcissism disorder, it makes sense. So what if it's not the final discard or the final breakup? Well, they repeat the process, steps 1 through 4, all over again. And as I mentioned earlier, I went through it 10 times at least. Whenever he would discard me, the temporary discards or whatnot, the breakups, he would basically, I'd say something, I can't even remember, just something like light, or we'd get into an argument that, no, most couples do, but it would piss him off so badly that it was it, we're over. And the next thing I know, I was blocked on all forms of social media. My number was blocked. There was no closure. It left me feeling like a piece of shit. It left me feeling terrible. Like, oh my God, what did I do to deserve this? Nothing. But at the time, it feels terrible to be broken up with and just like left out in the dust, cold turkey, like you never mattered, right? It was almost like clockwork in my narcissistic relationship. Like, he'd block me and then 2 days later, he'd come back around. And guess what? Step number 1, the love bombing began all over again. The sweet things, I missed you, I'm sorry, I want to be with you. Guess who fell for it like 10 times? This girl. But no, seriously, I noticed that with each time I went back, the love bombing phase lasted small, like shorter and shorter, and on to the stage number 2, the devaluation stage. So it's very quick. It kind of just, I don't know, each time was worse. So why do people stay in narcissistic relationships? I got a lot of criticism for staying in mine because, well, I couldn't see what other people saw outside the box. They saw that he was no good for me, no good in general, and I was just, hey, I wanted to make it work. I'm in love. I love this guy. And when it's good, right? A reader asked me this past week, actually, how does she leave? How do you leave when it's good for a few weeks and things are going well? Well, the thing is, with a narcissist, the good times will never last. They're not made to last because they have to cycle through the phases, the cycle of abuse. It has to happen. The good times are great. You have to think about the shitty times and being shit on. It's not so great. Another reason why abuse victims or survivors or whatever, they stay is because of something called trauma bonding. Every time they break up and lure you back, it creates a stronger trauma bond up here mentally. Basically bonds the victim to their abuser. So it literally changes the chemistry in your brain. This is how fucked up this shit is. And honestly, having been going through it, 10 times, I was addicted to him and it sucked. But most abuse survivors are, and it's hard to break that cycle and heal and be the one to leave first, be the one to not let them back and move the hell on, which I was ultimately able to do. But basically, to put it in a nutshell, the reason why people stay is because they're hopeful. The narcissist will throw something that I like to call breadcrumbs, like breadcrumbs of hope at you, thinking that maybe it'll work out, but it won't. You just have to be strong enough to realize this is not healthy and it's not gonna work, at least in your favor. I've been told, oh, I can make them happy. No, you can't. Narcissists will never be happy. These souls are empty. Like, they cannot be happy no matter what. That's why they use all these things, money, people, whatever, to try to fill that empty ass void. So please, don't even try. Like, literally, I've heard some stories of some women who, made dinner for their husband. They came home from a long day of work and they picked it apart. It just wasn't good enough. So the narcissistic relationship ends when you want it to end. You have to be the one that after whichever discard, and I don't blame you if you have to go through 10 discards like I did, okay? I get it. A lot of people might be like, why is she going back? I get it. But you have to be the one to not go back and to not accept them if they come back. Literally, it all starts with you. The narcissist usually always comes back. You have to be the one to control that and to stop it. That's the only way this relationship will ever end. And when it ends, get your ass in therapy like I did and start healing, start forgetting, block them on social, don't follow them, don't know what they're up to, don't care. Okay, that's very crucial. Don't do it. Don't ask friends. Don't have anyone keeping tabs. Just don't do it. Just erase them from your mind. It's gonna be hard for a little bit, but you can do it. Go to therapy. Therapy honestly helped me so much. Having good friends, making new friends who are very supportive helped so much. And ultimately, I ended up finding my person and things are so much better. And now I see a healthy relationship and what that is like versus an unhealthy one. And someday you will too. But if I would have stayed in this narcissistic relationship, I would have not found Mr. Right. So if it doesn't feel right and you're feeling anxious all the time, you need to realize what you're dealing with and that you are holding yourself back from a potentially beautiful life and new relationship. But most of all, you just don't deserve that, sis. You don't. So I hope this all helped you. That's pretty much everything in a nutshell. Obviously, I can't really go through everything in one video because that would be way too long. It'd be like a 3-hour movie. But if you have any questions, drop them below. Again, you can read my blogs in the description box. Hope it helps you girls and guys. Just hang in there, okay? You're worthy, you're great, nothing's wrong with you. Just hang in there. Have a good week.